Hello, welcome to some Derps Talk About Games. I'm your co-host, Mango.
And I am your co-host, Buddy.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about what's yet to come in 2026. Maybe a little bit late, but before we do that, Buddy, why don't you tell the folks at home what it is we do on this podcast?
Well, it is, there's a lot of things that we cover on the podcast. We cover video games, obviously, tabletop games. I guess increasingly, since I moved to New Hampshire and we can play in person all the time, Magic the Gathering, and then also, I don't know, pop culture stuff. Marvel, Star Wars, a lot of it will be coming up today. So, I guess we can get into this. The way that we're going to do this is, I kind of, in my mind, I have already categorized things as there are things I am hyped about, there are things I am interested in, and there are things that I am dreading, basically, right? So that things where I have kind of positive anticipation, things where I have negative anticipation, and kind of this neutral, there's sometimes where I just want to see stuff play out. I don't know if you want to categorize the things that are floating around in your brain, but I figure, I don't know if we can just get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've got a couple things coming up relatively shortly. What do you want to start with, Buddy?
The first one that's on my mind is Midnight, the WoW expansion. Okay. So I guess we'll start there. I am certainly hyped for Midnight, the WoW expansion. I'm taking that whole week off from work, actually, partially because everyone at my job insists that I need to take a vacation, which they're probably right about. And also just because, I haven't done this in a long time. I used to do this reflexively for like WoW expansions. I think I maybe did it in Legion. But it just, I don't know. It just felt like a right, good, cool time to do that thing of like lean really, really hard into the new expansion. It's funny because Midnight is simultaneously the expansion that I kind of care about in true terms, sort of the least, which is to say like actual features and product. I care about it quite little. Most other expansions have been able to sort of grip me with some feature or new class, new race. Oh, here's the thing, hero talents. Wow, it's going to change up your gameplay, like any of those kinds of things. Midnight seems to have basically zero of those. The only big, gigantic box feature for Midnight already launched 3 months ago, which was housing, right? Player housing in World of Warcraft launched in December. We're now in February, and it is tied to the Midnight expansion. You have to have the Midnight expansion in order to do housing stuff, right? But like the fact that it came out 3 months earlier than the expansion kind of like disassociates it in my brain. So sure. Even though housing is really hype and I was super excited for it, and it continues to be very cool, right? The product of Midnight doesn't appeal to me all that much, but the presence of a new WoW expansion just in the abstract is sort of so good that I can't help but be excited for it. Which is to say, just the experience of leveling 10 new levels in Quell Thalas or whatever. That's fun. That's just always a good time, right? A new Mythic Plus season, a new raid tier, right? Like that's good stuff. That's what we're here for. The thing I am personally most interested in and will be spending the most time for is actually a new profession grind. It's funny, I actually stayed about net neutral over the course of the War Within, which was also true of Dragonflight. In Dragonflight, I made about 1 million gold, spent about 1 million gold. In the War Within, I spent about 2.5 million gold, but I also made about 2.5 million gold. So I'm still hovering around this number, which tends to be about 17 million, which is like my net worth that I built up in sort of Shadowlands. And the big gold push that I discovered for the War Within, which is profession tools, basically, I didn't discover until like week 4 of the expansion. Now, I did make a gazillion dollars off of this, or a gazillion gold, I guess, off of this, just farming out profession tools and making really kind of like high spec profession tools. But at the same time, I realize now that if I can open by not quite cornering, but taking control of the profession tools market, boy, oh boy, am I hoping that is going to reap some dividends. So I am planning to spend that entire week off from work just being a fucking like Wolf of Wall Street, buy low, sell high, auction house goblin.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered like applying that level of analysis to like the real stock market? Obviously, it's a little bit more complicated, and it's not quite.
It gives me a great ability to talk to my father, who is a financial advisor who does spend most of his time thinking and talking about sort of the these sort of functions in the stock market. I imagine that I don't know. I imagine that I would be good at it if I were to apply it, but I also imagine that the field of securities investment is going to be a little bit more shall we say
complex.
Competitive
and the alpha, right? Yeah it's hard to find the
thing that really attracts me about the WoW auction house is you can make staggeringly huge gains on things where it feels like you discovered like a niche market. And this is exactly what happened with, this is why I made all that money on these profession tools in the first place. Basically the thing that I realized was that, if I were to just raw sell mats for most of whatever I could sell, I was getting a little bit, I was maybe getting like 10 or 15% on my labor, right? So if I took those same mats and I just listed them on the auction house, if I had processed them into some level of sort of good, like trade good, it would be less valuable to me than because of the labor. But the thing about the profession tools is that labor markup is like 6,000%, right? So it's like I'm taking, 300 gold worth of bismuth and whatever and turning it into 12,000 gold. No, it would be more than that. 18,000 gold worth of, that's a little high, I guess, but whatever the case may be, right? Like that's the thing that attracts me is the 6,000%, right? Like this insane number where I'm taking something that's worth 300 gold and selling it for 5,000.
How are you like getting that increase? Cause like, I mean, obviously I do engineer. So like, the opportunity is a little bit more limited there, but like, I found that like most of the good things are, they're crafting order specific, and I just don't see that many orders on the
not the orders, the greens.
The greens,
this is
really?
The thing. You think about it. New expansion, everybody has alts, and you put profession gears on your profession stuff on your alts. And this was the real hack, right? This was the part that takes it from 300 to 6,000. Okay. So when you go to the auction house and you go buy one of these profession tools, a green profession tool, right? Do you buy the rank 3? No, obviously not. You buy the rank 5 one. You buy the max rank one that you can, okay? Those ones have a markup, obviously, to them because they're rank 5. But the real thing that made them a moneymaker for me was, and I didn't quite understand this at first, but like the math makes sense if you think about it. When I spec'd all of my guys towards profession tools, it lowered the amount of skill that I needed to hit certain breakpoints to make those green profession tools in the first place, right? And what that meant was I could use worse materials to get that rank 5 outcome.
I see.
Right? So if you think about it, because you probably spec'd into, I don't know what, like gadgets or something for like engineering.
Initially, yeah.
Yeah. Well, on my engineer, I spec'd right into profession tools, right? My engineer could make profession tools at rank 5 with like rank 2 bismuth, whereas a normal engineer would need the rank 3 bismuth in order to get there, right? and
it's like a rate limiting function, right? Because you're limited by your points to boost it to the next level, because it's hard to do it raw, but yeah, that makes sense to me, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. So most people, I find that most people with professions, like I just don't think many people are speccing into the profession tools in the way that I was, right? So what was happening was I was competing with people who were doing the 10 or 15% markup, but I'm getting the huge markup because I can fulfill all the same. We're both chasing the same product, but I get to use worse quality materials that are cheaper on the auction house
Sure.
in order to craft it in the first place. And so like that's like the hack that I discovered for the purposes of our server. There's also a thing, there's just not a ton of people who are selling, you know, all of that stuff in the first place. So I'm not really competing against most people. It eventually got to a point where I was logging in about 3 or 4 times a day and relisting all of my stuff, which maybe takes 2 or 3 minutes, right? And I was still logging in every day to maybe 30 to 50,000 gold worth of sales, right? Which is obviously straight revenue, it's not profit, but you know, it just meant that like I was taking in a bunch of money every day for, I don't know, whatever, 6 months or something. Anyway, so that's what I'm really hyped for.
No, that's super interesting. Yeah, it always mystifies me that people are so like poor in WoW. Like I don't feel like I don't put that much effort into WoW. Maybe I do, and people just like, you know, like I feel like, you know, there are people who's like this is their only game, and then like I like, you know, go hard for a little while and I make decent money. Like I'm not crazy like you, but like, you know, I've lost money this expansion, but that's because at the end of the expansion, I decided to chase the engineering mount, and instead of doing the smart thing and just buying the materials outright, I kept buying the parts to smash and try and like pull them, which was the wrong decision. But
I respect it. I respect doing it the hard way. That's awesome.
I mean, I eventually gave up, and I'm still not done with it. I'm still trying to like, you know, close the gap there, because I'm going to be basically dead broke by the time I finish it. But like, you know, I know people who have been playing this game. They play this game more often than I do. That are like, you know, that feel. It sounds like they don't have like more than like 10,000 gold, and it's just like how, right? Like.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. It used to be that people didn't want to do dailies and stuff like that, and I imagine that might have something to do with it, right? Like a willingness to do the world content every week. Like that chest at the end of doing whatever the world content thing, getting your Titan discs or whatever, that's like 2k gold or something, right? And I just think that kind of stuff adds up. But yeah, I don't have a good answer for why other people are broke in this game.
Yeah. But what was I gonna say? You know, so I am also excited for Midnight, but it has been pretty much like taking second fiddle to the other game that comes out this week, which I assume we're going to talk about next. And so I
guess so. Yeah,
I will hold off on that for the moment. I feel like I am less hyped for Midnight, not because I think it's going to be bad or anything, just because the way I play WoW is like I'm excited for Labyrinths, right? Like that's more content that I can eat. But like when I don't pay super attention to the upcoming stuff, and I prefer it that way. I feel more excited when, you know, it's all a surprise to me. But I also just kind of like, oh well, I guess I'm playing Billabong again, and I don't really have any desire to do anything else. But like it's like the simplification is kind of like, oh, I have to relearn a thing, but it's going to be worse than... It feels like it's going to be worse than the thing I had to relearn every other expansion. I take personal offense to act like it's hard being broke. Wow, have you bought 300 windows? No. I actually haven't dug into housing, really, which is maybe going to be my saving grace here, is I have not, like, you know, dumped a ton of hours into that stuff, and that could be a different chase at a different time. I don't have to worry about it so much.
Yeah, I was really surprised how much housing really gripped me. Like, I think of myself as an expressive player in terms of like player motivation stuff. There are things that I will do in, for instance, Minecraft or something that are just purely about like, oh, I want to build a unique and interesting like building architecturally, right? All of my Minecraft buildings, I make them by, you know, I like stripping out the dirt on a place down to whatever the stone underneath it, and then building on top of that stone. So it looks like, you know, whatever, a castle that is half, you know, cooked stone and half natural stone. I think like that like looks appealing to me. And I think of that as a similar sort of thing as like a similar sort of drive as housing. But also at the same time, I think of myself as sort of like a function sort of first, you know, player. So for instance, I never jived or was interested in Minecraft creative mode. I was only really interested in Minecraft as like a, like the survival loop of going out, farming a bunch of resources, doing all that kind of thing. If I can just generate the resources in my inventory, that really sort of sucks. And WoW is much more hit the survival mode, sort of half of my brain that wants to, go out and do collecting. Like, oh, I need to find these pieces, XYZ, right? I'm going to go out, I'm going to collect a bunch of them, and I'm going to bring them back, and I'm going to stage them just right, and all this other sort of stuff. And also just like the level of control they give you in this housing system is truly bonkers, right? Being able to turn off clipping, and you can zoom up, zoom down, scale, you can hide things in things, right? I have training dummies that are out front of inside of my house, and it is like giant fence posts with little fence posts for hands and a basket that's turned upside down to kind of represent a head, right? And it's like that kind of thing is just like, I don't know, it's really engaging. So I've been enjoying housing a lot, but I absolutely feel you that like, God, I could give zero shits about like Apex talents or whatever. It feels like really I'm playing the exact same game as before. And also they did ruin one of the two classes that I was intending to play. Warrior, again, is the exact same class, basically untouched. All they did was get rid of one button from Prot Warrior and then a handful of buttons from Arms. But I would actually say the Arms changes are quite good. It just sort of like clarifies the main driving sort of thrust of the spec. But for Fire Mage, they basically ruined that spec as far as I'm concerned. But I'm planning to play it anyway because the RP matters, and that's it. I wanted to play a Blood Elf Mage, a Blood Elf Fire Mage specifically for the expansion. And so the fact that they ruined Fire Mage kind of sucks, but I am undeterred.
Yeah, no, they got rid of Earth, Wind, or Storm, Earth, and Fire, Earth, Wind, and Fire, whatever the talent is, which is they probably needed to do because it never worked perfectly. Like, the joke is like, you squash one bug and like, 7 more appear. But that is also, it just feels kind of, it feels like a dumber version of Monk, which is not terrible. It's like, I am making it work with the new tools. Like I don't like the stack ranking isn't as severe as it felt like it was in the previous expansions. Like the order makes more sense kind of naturally, or the rotation makes more sense kind of naturally. But it also feels like there's less kind of like skill expression there. But who knows? Maybe I just have to. I'm going to wait for, Peak of Serenity to come out with their guide and tell me what, how I can like shave an extra, like, put an extra 10% into this.
Yeah, I actually think that WoW has sort of figured out that you don't need to go hard on player side sort of like features in order to like make a good expansion. I think sort of the impetus for Midnight in a weird way is a bet that, we can just kind of do more of the same and be content forward rather than sort of this like, trying to pull people in with kind of chase features forward stuff. And people are going to want to come back because the content of the raids, the content of the dungeons, the content of the world or whatever, all that stuff is the stuff that they're here for. Which I guess turns it even to more of sort of this theme park MMO kind of experience, but I don't know. I think the Dragonflight War Within sort of template for how expansions works is pretty great. It's just good. And so putting it in that way makes me a happy camper.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm sure I'll get back into it at some point. I just, historically the WoW expansions have dropped when I had literally nothing else to do, and it was a great way for me to like, burn my my live service game hours on it, and that's not going to be the case this time around. Do you have anything else you want to say about Midnight before? Do you have any features in particular that you're looking forward to?
I don't know. Maybe Prey is like the only one that kind of matters. Do you know about Prey?
No.
Prey is this idea that when you're out in the world, you basically go, "Hey, I'm gonna hunt this guy." It's a little bit like the Koresh has like a proto mini version of this.
Oh yeah,
that is you do a couple of dailies and then you spawn a rare and kill the rare. Prey is when you're out in the world, a rare hunts you. and you have a certain set of things that you do that like attract the prey, and then eventually you're going to get ambushed, and it's like sort of fighting this rare, but like it's a rare that's meant to be soloed, not one that you have to kind of like get a whole group for, like that kind of thing. I think prey is kind of the only interesting system that they have at launch. The other one that I think everybody is hyped for, and I am also, is Labyrinths, but Labyrinths aren't coming until 13.1 or something.
Okay.
And so there's just, I don't know, there's just not all that much to look into. I mean, I guess I'm excited for Silvermoon. It's cool that we're going back and doing this, you know, unification of the Eastern Kingdoms and stuff like that. So maybe that just is like on the content level, the story and stuff is doing a thing that I think is quite interesting and neat, in terms of going back and revamping, you know, an old zone in Cataclysm sort of style. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, I am vaguely, and this is all later stuff, is, you know, it sounds like they're doing a bunch of like non-standard raids that I think will be interesting.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because the raid is like, it's like 1 6-boss raid, 1 3-boss raid, and then a 2-boss raid instead of a gigantic 12-boss raid, like something like that, basically, which I think is also neat. Yeah,
yeah, that'll be interesting. I wonder, do you know if they're planning on keeping them all as current content simultaneously, or are they gonna? It's like, you know, is the 6 boss raid gonna be effectively deprecated when the 3 boss raid comes out? Because that feels like it might be a mistake. But
it's all in the same tier, but I do believe the 2 boss raid at the end is going to function like, you know how in, you know, whatever, like Manaforge Omega, Saladar, and Dimensius drop better gear than the previous bosses. Yeah. The 2 boss raid at the end is like that. So it's kind of
like a skip without a skip, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's going to be, well, you know, we don't really need to go farm the 6 boss raid anymore. We have everything that we need. Let's just go kill, you know, the 2 boss raid, which I think is fine and cool. I actually like it for storytelling purposes more than anything else. You know, the 2 boss raid is like the Battle of, you know, Quel'Danas or something, which I am hyped for that. I think that that's an interesting, cool, sort of complex way that they can tell the WoW story by breaking it up, rather than having all, you know, sort of like WoW story experiences being built around, and then I go into the big building at the centerpiece of the zone and kill a bunch of guys. You know, like that's been just the case for the last 10 years of World of Warcraft.
Sure.
And, you know, it'll feel good to vary that up a little bit.
Sure. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to say, like, when was the last time we had like a real kind of like set piece raid? Was it like Siege of Orgrimmar? That like was like a... Was there anything? Has there been anything past that?
It would be Dazara Lore is what I would probably like. That to me is a set piece raid.
Which was Dazara Lore?
Battle for Dazara Lore in Battle for Azeroth.
I skipped Battle for Azeroth. This one. I skipped Battle for Azeroth.
Yeah, so Battle for Azeroth. Battle for Dazara Lore is you fight through the, you know, Dazara Lore is obviously the Horde thing, but you kill Rastakhan. You know, huge impactful. This one that it ends with Jaina. Great raid, extremely good raid. Probably one of the best raids of the last 10 years. You know, easily the best raid in Battle for Azeroth. Yeah, I don't know, that raid is amazing. So I think probably that.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. So the next game we're going to talk about is the thing that I just mentioned is Marathon. I like Arc Raiders really grabbed me, and as we've been talking about over the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 months that it's been out, basically it is too friendly, right? Like it is. You know, Weenie Hut Jr. is, I think, the term you've been using.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday because we were playing Helldivers, and I I compared the PvP, the non-aggro lobbies to Weenie Hut Juniors, and the aggro lobbies to the Salty Spittoon, which I think is accurate for how, you know, the game does that segregating thing with player behavior.
Yeah, and I really don't like that, because I think that there is something to be said for, like, you know, still having those things be possible, right? Like still having a friendly moment be possible, but knowing that you can't trust anybody, right? That there might be a killer on the other end, you can choose to be a killer if you want to, right? Whereas, like, it feels like the two halves of this in Arc Raiders is just too too severe. I have, to be fair, I have not really been on the salty spittoon part ever since they've done the aggro splitting. And part of this is just like standard water finds a crack problems, which is like, you know, the best way to do the trials, which is how you like do ranks, is you be in Weenie Hut Junior lobbies and just farm results, right? The only thing that makes it hard in those ones is if it's like, you know, kill, or, you know, like points for like killing like bastions or something, is that if there's a bastion on the map, everybody's fucking sprinting straight for it because, you know, no one's shooting each other. So everybody, like, you essentially have to race the other raiders to shoot the things before you get before they get it. Otherwise, you're gonna fall off. And Marathon is not going to do any aggression based matchmaking. They're not launching with ranked, but the ranked mode is going to be, you have to load in with a certain amount of gear, and you have to buy a holo tag, and that holo tag is like a dog tag, and the way you rank up is like you take holo tags off of other players, right? And you extract with them, right? Like, yeah, exactly, right? Like, and I am excited for that, right? I'm excited for that level of stuff. Also, according to a lot of the preview material that's been out and like people talking coming out preview event, it's going to be very story heavy. I've been doing a lore deep dive over the past like month or so. I had mentioned earlier that I was going to try and play through the original trilogy. I played maybe an hour of the first game and got motion sick just because like the old shooters do not agree with my stomach.
And also the original Marathon is a Starship game. This is one of the things that is lost about, you know, the original Marathon came out in the mid 90s when shooters hadn't, you know, there was sort of like the Doom side of things, but there was also this like whole brand of these sort of Starship shooters, for which there were a million of them. And so I think that part is really interesting, right? Like, what is it going to look like to sort of revisit this in a much more modern kind of context?
What do you mean by Starship shooter?
It's something about the controls or whatever. I don't know. This is me not pirating. No, not pivoting. What am I doing? A YouTube video. I'm talking about what a YouTube video talks about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It has something to do with it's like tank controls, basically.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So Marathon has fairly modern controls, actually, or at least the version that you can get on Steam.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A part of it for me is just kind of like, I don't know, with these older shooters, for whatever reason, the kind of nature of the graphics just gives me motion sickness. It doesn't happen with modern stuff, but the older stuff does. Maybe it's also part of it is that I'm playing on like an ultra wide monitor. I'm playing a game from 1992, right? Like there's got to be some like some disconnect there. But the lore is super deep if you care about it. If anybody at home wants to like the Cliff's Notes version, I recommend Mandalore Gaming's what is it? He's got 3 videos on Marathon, and then this is kind of like a jump scare spoiler, but like Pathways into Darkness is like one of Bungie's older shooters. Is actually technically a prequel to the Marathon trilogy. And so like you watch those for videos from Mandalore. There might also be some connections from like their RTS game, but like those are so far away that you don't actually need to worry about them. Those 4 videos will get you like most of the basic stuff you need. And then if you care, apparently this game is like such a big, like the old games have such a big cult following that like this guy named Hamish has been maintaining the site since the 90s about the lore. He just has all the text of the terminals. And that's what I've been doing. I've been reading through the terminals, and they've got like discussion pages. It's like, it is in like, this is like a pre-wiki, like pre-concept of Wiki's existing website, right? It's like, like it looks like a GeoCities website. It's fucking great. And so I've been having super fun with it. Also, the game, just to be clear about, the game looks good. It's got this interesting problem where, because the first look was kind of bad and they took the time to redo it, there's a lot of like, buzz online seems to be turning, but there's a lot of people who are like invested in hating the game. And so like, like Sony shut down Blue Point Studios last week, to much consternation, and some subset of people online decided to blame that on Marathon for some reason. And so,
it is interesting to me because I think I was also a Marathon hater. Like I was watching the Paul Tassi videos or whatever, right? Because he was mainly the reporter, I would say, that was kind of like covering it in just the straightforward way that he was. and I don't know what happened besides the fact that you are hyped for it that has sort of changed my mind. I was content to leave Marathon behind, but now I feel like I'm going to have to play it because, I don't know.
Yeah,
they
Service Lab
are
this week,
making changes.
You can play it for free for 4 days and check it out, see if you like it.
Right on top of the WoW expansion,
exactly,
and right on top of Steam Next Fest. Go fuck me in particular. Okay,
yeah. But yeah, this is my big thing, right? Like, I really hope it works out. Like, I like got so deep into Arc Raiders that I'll be happy if I can get into this. I hope I can like bring some other people along for the ride in the way that, like, I think this game will probably be best experienced 3-on-3 or in threes, and it's just kind of, I don't like playing with randos. It's just not a thing I do. I will play solo if I have to, but playing with threes, if I can drag some people, will be fun. But we'll see, I guess. But this is the thing I think I'm looking forward to most, probably for the year, at least in terms of video games. I just can't even think of anything else that is coming out, right? Like Neo 3, which is another big one on my list, came out already. So, I've been playing that. But I don't know if there's anything else big on the horizon besides, Midnight, Marathon, and yeah.
Okay, I have one other game property or game thing that's happening in 2026 that I want to talk about. Okay, which is the Lord of Undeath himself, Nagash. Okay, coming to Total War Warhammer 3. Mango, I know that this means nothing to you. Okay, I know really that doesn't. This is stupid. But there is an extreme amount of hype that is related to this particular DLC. I would also probably put some level of Total War 40K if it ends up coming out this year, but we don't have a release date for it, and people don't think it's going to be a this year.
I don't think so.
It's going to be a this year thing. I don't know. I actually think that there's a better chance than I would have expected. Is I guess what I would say, because of the state that they sort of revealed it in, and because of other games, right, where they have released in like a 6 or 8 or 10 month sort of window from when the Steam page drops to when the game comes out. Anyway, Nagash is the Lord of Undeath. He's actually in Warhammer Fantasy lore the guy who created Undeath in the first place. So he created sort of the magic of Undeath that would later go on to create the Tomb Kings, the Vampire Counts, the Vampire Coast, all of this stuff. And he is the first of a number of DLCs that we are expecting to see, which are called the End Times. The End Times is the famous end of the Warhammer Fantasy universe before before Games Workshop
Age of Sigmar
rebooted the universe into sort of Age of Sigmar. They had this huge event called the End Times, and it's really kind of the only thing left for Total War Warhammer Fantasy to do. There's like a little bit of sort of hanging chest. There's one army book left for the Dogs of War, who you would actually probably appreciate. The Dogs of War are they're like a mercenary, but they represent sort of Southern Europe, in sort of contrast to the Northern Europe of, so the rest of the stuff. So the Dogs of War included Estalia, which is Spain. They have bull cavalry, which I think is very cool, like bull riders, like matadors who are also cavalry. And then there is also, it's Estalia and, Miraliano or something like that, which is Warhammer Fantasy Italy, which the legendary lord is basically Leonardo da Vinci, and you're using these fucking like wacky air screws and just like weird Renaissance contraptions. And so that's probably the last army that we will that we will see, but there's like a bunch of just interesting stuff left. And the real question is, as Total War Warhammer 3 enters kind of this final phase of its probable wind down, right? Is it going to be able to hit the high notes? I think so. I hope so. I am hyped for it, but maybe that's all we need to say. Double deuces to my boy Nagash. Cetra does not kneel, motherfucker. The trailer, there's a reference to the trailer for Nagash, which was released at the 25th anniversary of Total War I think it was in November, but the trailer is Nagash rising. He has his Mortarks, so Nagash gets resurrected in the end times. He selects 9 like kind of undead people to be the Mortarks, who are sort of like his lieutenants, which includes people from all over the sort of like all over the undead realm of Warhammer Fantasy sort of lore. And one of the people that he goes to is Settra the Imperishable, the king of Khemri and the Lord of all Tomb Kings, and he blows Settra up because Settra does not kneel for anyone. Settra does not serve. And so Nagash kills him. But at the very end of the trailer, there's this little thing where you see Settra's little skull head and his eyes light up again because, he is the imperishable. And it's just like that kind of stuff is what's so hype about Nagash.
Sure. No, it makes sense. Yeah. How does it feel?
Okay.
How does it feel to be at the end of?
You know what's funny? I had, and this is a good segue to sort of my next thing. I had a moment, which was, I finally started watching new Patrick H. Willems. You want to know when I stopped watching Patrick H. Willems? It was in 2022 when Night of the Coconut was coming out. Night of the Coconut being the feature film. So, for those of you who don't know, over the course of 2020 and 2021, Patrick H. Willems is a YouTube video essayist who did framing devices for his video essays that included sort of a narrative that was going on in the background. I was a fiendish consumer of these during the COVID era. I thought they were great. They were super fun. There were these awesome plot twists that kind of, like came out and were sort of seen to completion. And it was all in the build up to a feature film that he made for the streaming service Nebula. That was just like the season finale of all of the kind of narrative pieces of his video essays. I had sort of built Night of the Coconut up so much that I just never watched it. And this week I finally fucking did. And, now that I have watched Patrick H. Willems' video, I was finally able to start chipping away at his new content. And one of the new things that he does is what's called Patrick Replies, which is that, he will just take questions in his Discord from Patreon members. And wouldn't you know it, I've been a Patreon member for years, not watching the new content because I just kept watching the old content over and over again. And I asked Patrick a question that was, how does it feel? Like, what do you think the difference is between living through a plot twist, like sort of live, versus binging a plot twist kind of in absentia, right? So the difference between, kind of coming to Game of Thrones might be an example, right? In Game of Thrones now, if somebody wanted to start watching it, they could just binge all 8 seasons, right? But like the process of watching those seasons week by week, year over year, with big gaps in between these seasons, materially changes sort of the way that those like plot twists hit and all of the rest of it. And I just kind of asked him a question of that. Total War Warhammer 3 is in a similar vein to that. I feel the same way about Total War Warhammer 3 that I do about that like elongated structure of plot twists. One of the reasons that the Venture Brothers is such an important sort of like show for me, and one of the things, just the best things I think I've ever experienced in my life, is because I've been paying attention to this show for 25 years, right? And they paid off, they set up a mystery in literally episode, 1, that they only paid off in 2019, 20 years later. And that same feeling is what sort of happens with Total War. So, I'm pretty excited for Total War Warhammer 3 to kind of like reach the final phase and go, okay, we're sunsetting the game. Everything's going to be about 40K from now on, all the rest of that. But the act of living through it matters a lot to me, right? Like this thing of, they announced it in 2014. I was incredibly hyped at that time, right? It released 2 years later and then just boop, 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 right down the line until now here we are. And the game is so huge and expansive and basically the best strategy experience I think I've ever had in my life. So yeah, I don't know. Feels good is the answer.
Fantastic. Awesome. All right.
Mr. Collins has some thoughts for the podcast.
Yeah, can you hear him?
Yeah, I heard him.
Yeah, I know, buddy. He's standing on the stairs, and yeah, it's hilarious because like him and Miss Charlotte will meow at each other through the door, and as soon as somebody opens the door, they'll just look at each other and be like, "It's you." Like, you know, it's like it's the same cat that's been there the whole fucking time, right? Like, you know.
Anyway, so I think mine was Total War Warhammer 3. What's next on your list?
Well, I'm going to go chronological just because it's top of mind for me. It's the thing that I have de-hyped about, and that is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Magic expansion, which comes out in like a week or something like that.
Yeah, I think pre-release is on Friday. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, thinking about, like, so, you know, I have over the past like maybe couple of weeks, I've gone the other direction on this. Like and I think I can pinpoint it. I was like, the thing that I want is like that. My gut is that like the art doesn't seem very good, and that's probably part of it. But I think a bigger part of it is that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is something I am nostalgic for, and there is like probably like close to 20 years of lore that I'm just not up on, and like the things that are in the cards are not the things that I am nostalgic for, right? Like, you know, like the kind of like 1-2 punch for this was like one, you know, seeing like this yellow Ninja Turtle in a card art and like starting down this hole.
Yeah.
And this yellow Ninja Turtle is her name's like Letta or something. There's a bunch of characters from the IDW comics. That's right? IDW is the name of the outfit.
Well, Mirage is the original. So the original run of TMNT was Mirage Comics, which is an independent comic label. But I do think the most recent ones went to IDW. So
yeah. I think that's where there's like two. There's like an albino girl that turns into a turtle. That's one. There's like 2 extra turtles. The other thing, and you know this is nothing about the object level of it. But April O'Neil went from being like a redheaded white woman to being a black woman in 2018. And it's just like, this is like, you know, not there's anything particularly wrong with that, but it's not the same character that I remember, right? It's not the character that I attached to, right? Like,
okay. Do you know about, I'm sorry, Red is Raphael, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know about Raphael having Jites instead of having Sais?
No, I did not know this.
Have you seen this? Yeah,
no.
The only reason I know about it is because they wrote a fucking blog about it. But I actually thought that this was really interesting. So, if you look at all of the art, Raphael does not wield his Sais, the daggers, right, that kind of have the forked sort of prongs to them. He is wielding a jite, which is a jite is like a Japanese sword breaker. It's sort of like a sai with like one one side to it, and including, I'm pretty sure, I think it's called Hard One Jite or something. I thought this was a reference to the fact that Jites are a Magic the Gathering sort of like mainstay. Basically, in Betrayers of Kamigawa, there was a card called Umezawa's Jite that was extremely good. It would then go on to become a Commander staple for a very long time. And so I kind of thought that they were doing a little bit of like cutesy, like, oh, well, when Magic reinterprets like TMNT, they redo it as, you know, through the Jite or whatever. But it's actually because Sais are not traditionally Japanese weapons, and Jites are, and so the idea is that like the Jite is what a Sai would be if Splinter, the Japanese rat, were to accurately give Raphael training in this weapon. The other version of this is for a Kusarigama, which is basically a Japanese chain. It's basically a nunchuck, like,
well,
you know, but nunchaku
it's a chain
are
with like the scythe on the end, right? Yeah,
exactly.
This is in Neo, which is I've been playing. So yes.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So a Kusarigama is a big chain and has like you said, it has a big scythe on the end. So the idea is there are some things where, I'm sorry, who the fuck uses nunchucks? Michelangelo. There's some art where Michelangelo isn't using nunchucks; he is using a kusarigama. But he does eventually get nunchucks, and there's no art with Raphael using sais, but there is some art of Michelangelo using a kusarigama because he eventually picks up the nunchucks from there. Also, technically, Leonardo, who's supposed to be using katanas, is using ninja toe swords, which is a flat. It is a katana is a curved blade, but a ninja toe sword is a flat blade, which would be more accurate to the ninjas. I was just like, they wrote a whole blog about this that I read. I was like, what the fuck were you guys thinking? Why would you ever do this, you stupid fucking idiot morons? Like, you're gonna tell me that, like, you're gonna do this Universes Beyond thing for the kids' cartoon property, and then you're gonna go, well, actually, wouldn't it be historically accurate for the rat ninja mutant to teach his turtle son how to use nunchucks? Like, you fucking kill me. I just think it is the stupidest thing.
The fucking, Splinter, in the sewer, had his choice of all of the weapons. He was like, no, I'm not going to pick up the nunchucks. I'm going to go get the Kusarigama from the sewer weapon shop.
It's so insane to me. It's so insane to me. It would be like if they did a set for, I don't even know what it would be. What could possibly be close to this? It'd be like if they did a set for Star Wars and they went, well, actually, lightsabers aren't scientifically accurate. So they're actually more like plasma chainsaws, where there's and it's like they changed it for that reason. It's just like, do you not understand the iconography of the IP that you are fucking adopting for your shameless cash grab, you ghouls? Like, I don't know why.
Yeah, to be fair, for the April thing, April has been, as my understanding, the character has been a black woman since like 2018 in all the continuities. And it's just like, that's its own thing, right? But it is not the Ninja Turtles that I knew, right? Like, there's a part of me that wishes they would just like mix it up, right? Like, there's no reason you can't have both, right? Like, I want, like, I want references to things that like I know, but then I'm sure that's like half the attraction, right? It's like, people like me who haven't like thought about Ninja Turtles in 20 years, but it's like, hey, I like Ninja Turtles when I was a kid, but it's not the end of the world. It's just like not a thing. I do think a big part of it is that like I'm not impressed by the art, and like it like none of it's exciting to me. It seems more like Spider-Man than like Final Fantasy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally feel this. And there's an extra part of it, which is that Ninja Turtles is a weird one for them to adapt in the first place because it itself has multiple different adaptations, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, you have the classic TV show, which I think is actually kind of the root of everybody's sort of like, this is really the kind of the gold ore that most people are mining in terms of nostalgia. But you have the comics, the original Mirage comics, which were a parody. That spawned the TV show. And then that TV show ended, and they rebooted the series a number of different times. The TMNT that came out for Nickelodeon was extremely popular, completely different kind of continuity and all of this other sort of stuff. And so it's like
there's movie continuity too, right? Like
exactly.
Live action movies.
There was the live action movies. There was the not Michael Bay, but kind of Michael Bay. There were two of those movies.
Space Turtles,
Yeah, and of course the IDW comics, which is like even further than that. And so like in a weird way, TMNT is one property that has been adapted a number of different times, all getting collected into sort of this one place. And I actually think that it's funny because I'm complaining about this, but I also want to say that Magic doing this is good and smart sometimes. So for instance, I was listening to somebody talk about Lord of the Rings. I think it was Brian Kibler mentioned this, where he mentioned how he really liked the Lord of the Rings set, but one of the things that made Lord of the Rings work for him on a Universes Beyond level is that it wasn't the movies, right? You could imagine there's a version of things where they did universes beyond the Lord of the Rings, and the main sort of iconography they were working off of was the movies rather than doing a magic interpretation of the books, right? So in magic lore, or I'm sorry, in the magic set, Aragorn is black, for instance, right? Theoden has these big dreads. There's just like a bunch of, and they include a bunch of stuff that isn't even included in the movies, right? Like Tom Bombadil, obviously, as this saga, bard, god, human, kind of thing. They do stuff like the Scouring of the Shire, stuff like that, right? Anyway, I actually think that that's very true and a good thing that they did it that way. And I would like that to, continue in the way that they approach things. But it is just truly bonkers to me that they took away this incredibly iconic thing about the Teenage Mutant Ninja. Frankly, the only thing that materially separates the turtles visually is their weapons. Not quite the only thing, but practically the only thing. It is the fact that one of them uses daggers, one of them uses katanas, one of them uses a staff, one of them uses nunchucks, right? And you're going to tell me that 2 out of the 4 of those, actually 3 out of the 4, depending, because the swords don't look like they're supposed to, you know what I mean? Are going to have these different, it's fucking insane.
Yeah. No. They should have only.
I see in the chat.
Go for it.
That Rachel has added a bunch of commentary that I want to shout out. Lightsabers should actually be curved if they were actually sabers. True. Okay. Excellent example of what I'm talking about. I believe they only should have made magic arts based exclusively around Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, especially if they make magic arts based around the 20 years later costumes that they found at the end of the Paramount lot. Have you seen that Nightmare Fuel?
No.
Where the felt costumes from TMNT 2 were rediscovered, and so they were like, they looked like they were like zombified or whatever, right? Anyway, a Vanilla Ice Commander win, Wizards fucking kill me. Okay.
So I was gonna say Secret of the Ooze. There is, the only female turtle I recognize is Venus. Apparently there is a Venus card, but I don't think it's from Secrets of the Ooze. Venus Torn Between Worlds is a green card. But I do think there's a thing here where I think I would have appreciated it more if it was all like the Magic the Gathering does Ninja Turtles. But I guess it's too much of a visual what's it called? The visual property, such that you can't not use at least one or two of the existing visual things, right? The thing about Lord of the Rings is there's no, it's a book property, right? You can you can reinterpret the visuals in a couple different ways, right? Whereas Avatar, Spider-Man, TMNT all have strong visual elements, and so you have to kind of run into one of them, I guess. But I don't know. I'm just not as excited for it as I wanted to be. Yeah.
Well, I totally feel you. I guess the next thing I want to talk about, keeping on the theme of magic, you know what? We'll just go next down the list, which is Strixhaven. So I am similarly not hyped for Ninja Turtles, even though I will be getting some of these cards because I am a shameless hack. Can't wait to drive an hour and a half to TJ's Cafe in 2 weeks. But the set after that is going to be Secrets of Strixhaven. So we're going to be returning to the plane of our Archivos and the colleges of Strixhaven. And I'm actually deeply excited for this for a number of reasons. The big one is I think Magic did a big thing about sort of expanding its universe recently, which is to say this if you look at the number of planes that were introduced from the period of 2005 to 2015, it was Theros, Amonkhet, it would have been Theros, Amonkhet, Kamigawa, Ravnica, Innistrad, and Zendikar. It's like 6 sets or whatever. I also think, but at this point, we have returned to all of those sets multiple times, right? We've gone back and done 3 different sets, actually 4 different sets technically, or like blocks that were all focused on the goings on of Innistrad. We've done Zendikar a number of times. I think 3 times. We've done Tarkir twice, right? One of the things I'm looking forward to is looking back at some of the new planes that Magic established. So New Capenna, Strixhaven, Kaldheim, right? Bloomburrow is going to be one that I'm sure they'll do at some point. Duskmourn. They had a ton of these new planes that we went to and we did new stuff. And I want to go back and I want to start exploring and building that kind of stuff out, because something that I was realizing, frankly, when I was doing Sporcle quizzes, you know what Sporcle quizzes are?
Yeah. Why don't you explain for the audience? But I haven't thought about Sporcle in forever.
I haven't thought about it. I've literally not thought about it in a long time. Sporcle are these like little brain teaser quizzes that people can sort of like make for themselves. And I was doing Magic versions of those. And the funny thing is, I actually have a great head. The Magic ones are set symbols, almost like the ones that I were doing. They were just set symbols, right? Oh, which set is this? It would go Ravnica, and you would have to go, what did Ravnica look like? And I kind of had forgotten what some of those set symbols were. And one of the things I kind of realized is that the original Ravnica is actually sort of less important to Ravnica being an awesome plane than Return to Ravnica, which was the second time that we went to that plane. And the same thing is true for Innistrad. Innistrad is a really cool plane, right? And everybody remembers the original Innistrad block. But actually, Eldritch Moon, the return to Innistrad, or I think it was actually Innistrad Shadows Rising, then it was something, then it was Eldritch Moon, actually has a lot of the really like cool iconic Innistrad stuff that we all think of with Innistrad, right? And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how I want to do that for all of these new planes that we've been to, right? We have been back to a number of different planes sort of over the years to sort of fill out Magic's kind of history, and I want to do that for Strixhaven, like I said, Strixhaven, New Capenna, whatever, Ixalan, a million of these that are interesting. Thunder Junction. I actually kind of hyped for a return to Thunder Junction. I've come to realize that there are a lot of cards in Thunder Junction that I think are fucking sweet, even if it is the stupid cowboy hat set. Anyway. So Secrets of Strixhaven, returning to Strixhaven. Strixhaven did a thing that I thought was really clever, which was they set the plane around the enemy color pairings, right? Which we typically think of as Ravnica stuff, like Ravnica things, right? But it gave a completely different identity to all of them, which is what I think is so compelling about it, right? So instead of having green, black be Dredge and Graveyard and the traditional Golgari stuff that it had been for so long, now we have a green-black that is built around this other shared thing that they have, which is sacrificing, like creating a lot of tokens and sacrificing a lot of creatures, right? Black sacrifices creatures, green creates a lot of tokens. Now you have these pest tokens, and all of your green-black cards are built around that sort of synergy, right? The one that I care about the most and that I think is the sweetest is Boros, which is the Lorehold, which is white-red. White-red were traditionally the worst colors in Commander, which is kind of why I was thinking about it in these sorts of terms. But one of the things that Strixhaven really did, and it was always very combat focused, right? So, Boros is the Boros Legion. It's all about attacking and attack triggers and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that Strixhaven did was sort of look at the way that red was about sort of like a discard and temporary token creation and playing stuff from exile and doing things into exile. And white is about sort of low level sort of like recursion to actually kind of create a value engine for that color combination, right? Which it had traditionally sort of lacked by, exiling stuff out of your graveyard or discarding stuff out of your hand to then exile it out of the graveyard, all that kind of stuff to make these like 3/2 spirit tokens. So I'm just really excited to go back there, deepen these mechanics, see if, the sort of expansion of what was established in Strixhaven sort of years ago gets to kind of spread its wings and fly, pun sort of intended, because Strixes are birds. There you go. That's my next hype thing I'm hyped for.
That's all super fair enough. I'm excited for it too, just in the sense that like I am kind of fully rounding into the universes within good, universes beyond bad kind of mentality. Mostly because I have loved, what's the name of this Lorwyn Eclipsed.
Lorwyn. Yeah. Lorwyn's great.
Yeah. And I am just like, what are our other, we already talked about TMNT. I'm going to do like a half thing here and be like, the next sets are like Marvel and
The Hobbit. Marvel superheroes. Fuck my life. Yeah. I forgot about that one. That one's going to suck. The Hobbit and
Star Trek at the end of the year. What is Reality Fracture? Yes. Do you know what Reality Fracture is?
Oh, I think I know what Reality Fracture is. So this is deeply speculative. Okay. The storyline that has been happening is centered around sort of Jace and Jace doing some kind of like wild stuff with, whatever, because now there are these omen paths that are going through all of the different planes, and he has this his Lute who sort of does some stuff. Jace just accidentally released Nicol Bolas and kind of merged Nicol Bolas's meditation realm, which was its own plane, like a plane that he had kind of scoured of all life so that he could just kind of go there and, meditate. This is where he was imprisoned at the end of War of the Spark, because his Planeswalker Spark was stripped from him, and so he was locked onto his meditation realm with his brother Ugin, and nobody was able to kind of access him there. Jace accidentally connected the meditation realm to sort of the rest of the Omen Path, so Nicol Bolas is back out. But anyway, the speculation is that Jace is going to try and destroy the Omen Paths, right? And like separate the planes back out to be not one unique sort of entity again, and give Planeswalkers kind of like their unique power again. And in doing so, he is going to create the Reality Fracture. And what people are predicting based on a number of like surveys that like Wizards of the Coast sent out and stuff like that is that, it is going to be like Planar Chaos, which was the middle set between Time Spiral and Future Sight from years and years and years ago. Planar Chaos was when everything got color shifted, right? And so this is when you had I think it was called Groundbreaker, which was green, green, a 6/1 with trample haste, and at the end of the turn sacrifice it. That was traditionally Ball Lightning, and it was a red effect, right? But because of Planar Chaos, they shifted it to be a green effect, right? Or there was another one called Mana Tithe, which was a 1 mana, white counterspell, because, counterspells is a little bit of a white thing kind of thing. Sure. And so they did all this sort of color shifting kind of back and forth. People think that Reality Fracture is going to be like that because there are leaks around a white Liliana card, which makes zero sense outside of the context of Reality Fracture. Liliana has always been a black Planeswalker using black mana to do zombies and all that kind of stuff. And so this is going to be, what if the Magic set, basically. So that's what everybody thinks it's going to be. If it is that, holy fuck, am I going to be hyped for that, because that sounds just like so cool, right? But we'll see.
You know what my immediate reaction to that is this is very Commander centric. Obviously, it's like people worried about fucking hybrid mana, homogenizing everything. Imagine if you could just have all your effects in every color, and Reality Fracture is just like core in every Commander deck, because you can just have whatever you want and everything. But
just make the consistency of it, even better. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm hopeful.
Sure.
I always loved, one of the things I always really loved about sort of like Magic is like watching characters kind of like go through things. Like, so for instance, Nahiri was originally a white Planeswalker, but then she gets betrayed by Sorin and she adopts a red and then becomes kind of the prototypical Boros Planeswalker of white-red, even becoming kind of a villain and stuff like that. And so I always loved this thing of like, Garruk is cursed now, so he is a green-black Planeswalker. He's added black into his kind of color identity, like that kind of thing. I think is cool and sweet. I am hyped for The Hobbit. Mostly because I really loved Lord of the Rings, and I've loved more about Lord of the Rings. I didn't play Lord of the Rings, obviously, but I did end up building a Lord of the Rings kind of deck. And I frankly want to build more of them. There's just like a lot of neat stuff happening in Lord of the Rings that I think is going to be cool to, go back to and fuck around with. And, I also have a deep love of The Hobbit because I look like Thorin Oakenshield from the movies. So I'm going to make a Thorin deck for sure. I'm sure it'll be cool, but maybe cringe. And I don't know. We'll see. I think The Hobbit is going to be sweet. I am uninterested in Star Trek, except for I told Rachel that I would make her a Captain Janeway deck because Voyager was her Star Trek when she was a kid. And I'm unhyped for Marvel superheroes so deeply. Jesus Christ. Get me out of here. This Marvel hell sucks so bad.
Yeah. Maybe that's a good next thing to move on to. Speaking of Marvel, right? The big movie event of the year is, there's the Super Mario Galaxy movie, there's a Supergirl movie, but at the end of the year is Marvel Doomsday, right?
Yeah, the Avengers Doomsday movie.
And it looks interesting enough that I might actually, over the course of this year, get myself caught up on the Marvel Universe. I don't think I'm that far behind. I just have like a half dozen series to watch, I guess.
I think I am dreading it. I think it's going to be dog shit. I think it's bad. I think Marvel is bad now, and we can just live in that world.
I've heard good things about. It's like Mr. Wonderful or something like that. There's a
oh yeah, Wonder Man.
Yeah, I have heard that that's good.
Yeah,
like the kind of like maybe this is just kind of like copium, but the kind of buzz on the street is like they realize they can't just like slop out more slop, and they have to make it good, which is why they're doing they're pulling out all the stops with all these like previews that have every single fucking character that you could think of that are all supposed to be dead in these previews. So maybe it'll be terrible. But I can entertain a little bit of copium. I could be ready for Marvel to be good again.
I would like to huff this copium with you, Mango. And I will give you a couple of good copium indicators. Number one, the stuff they're doing with the X-Men is probably the most interesting stuff, right? Which is to say, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, James Marsden are going to be like involved or whatever. It's in like one of the teasers, which I just think looks sweet. Obviously we saw at the end of Jesus Christ. How do we watch this movie? The Marvels. There was a reprisal of Kelsey Grammer as Beast, which was always just basically the best casting of all time. Channing Tatum as Gambit, which was also the best casting of all time. Great indicators all around. I love all of that kind of stuff. The reason that I am dooming so intensely hard right now is because of two men, and their names are Joe and Anthony Russo. The Russo brothers are dog shit filmmakers, I think. I think that they are J.J. Abrams reincarnated, essentially.
Did you?
Which is
dead, buddy.
They are echoing the problems of J.J. Abrams. Basically, is kind of my pitch.
No, that's fair.
Basically, I watched. So while I was watching this Patrick H. Willems stuff, he did an episode on was it in the Zack Snyder? He did a bunch of episodes. I watched a bunch of his videos. They're all blending together in my brain. This is what you get when you binge them and you don't watch them when they come out. He did an episode on Zack Snyder, which was actually quite good, even though he doesn't like Zack Snyder all that much, and I obviously love Zack Snyder. But he had a lot of nice things to say about Zack Snyder. And one of the things that he did was compare Zack Snyder's filmmaking, like the visuals of Zack Snyder's filmmaking, to the Russo brothers. And basically he was like, look, Zack Snyder is not a capable filmmaker. He has bad story instincts. He basically kind of builds these movies to make kind of like big, awesome shots. And then the big, awesome shots come, but they're not like well supported by what's going on in the script and the narrative and stuff like that. And as he exerts more story control, right, that those problems just get worse. And I actually agree with basically all of that. I think this is the big problem with Rebel Moon, frankly. But the thing that he talked about is at least he's making the cool images, right? Rebel Moon is sort of a dog shit movie that's kind of incomprehensible, but there are moments in that movie that look incredible. And the Russo brothers can't even get close to that. Even the biggest, these are the guys who directed the second biggest movie of all time. And there's really just nothing in Avengers Endgame that looks cinematically like what you would get out of. Oh, you know what? He was talking about Michael Bay. Thinking about it, he did this comparison both to Zack Snyder, but the real place he was talking about this was with Michael Bay, and was talking about how, these guys are just too pedestrian. They don't have an eye for the kind of impact that they ought to, and I think Marvel retreating to them is the rise of Skywalker. Is what I think is what this is. This middle portion of Marvel has sucked, and I have not liked it, so it's different than The Last Jedi. Obviously, I fucking loved The Last Jedi, and I had kind of wished that they stuck it out with Rian Johnson. They obviously didn't, or technically he turned them down, but whatever. But I think returning home to the two filmmakers who you think are going to be able to pay this off is just the greatest trap in all of the world. The Russo brothers have not done anything interesting since Endgame. I don't think they're capable of much that's going to be interesting. I think the casting of Robert Downey Jr. is extremely desperate. And unfreezing Steve Rogers is bad and stupid and lame. We'll see, but I hate basically all of it. It's funny because DC is doing sort of the opposite thing. DC is sort of doing the thing I wish they did. If they had given Avengers Doomsday to someone like, I guess they would have to do like maybe Taika Waititi. I don't know. They don't really have interesting filmmakers anymore.
I would say, and Taika Waititi, he did fumbled Love and Thunder.
Yeah, the fourth. Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely true.
Who would you give it to?
Yeah, like if they,
who they should have given it to? Should have given it to George Lucas.
That's a great answer. Okay. I was thinking James Gunn, right? James Gunn is the person who I would have been like, yes, please elevate this man. Right. But obviously that's what DC did, right? They completely sniped it. And I didn't love Superman. I complained a lot about Superman, but Superman is like far and away better than any of the Marvel movies that we've seen recently. Even ones that I kind of liked, like, what was it? Was it Thunderbolts or was it Captain America? Because I watched it on a fucking plane and I don't even remember. But anyway, so I'm doing about Avengers Doomsday, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I like I said, there's a part of me that, like, I want something not only interesting, but something that's kind of like that piece of monoculture, right? Like the Marvel movies were like the last vestiges of the monoculture, and they slipped away from that because it's been bad. But I would love it if it could come back for one last hit at least.
I also would love that. You know what? Who would be the best person? Here's my scalding hot take. All right, are you ready for this? Joss Whedon.
What?
If they had given Doomsday to Joss Whedon, then I would be hyped for it, because Joss Whedon, like Zack Snyder and like Michael Bay, knows how to shoot these movies. And I don't even really like Joss Whedon, the way Joss Whedon shot the action in those movies. I complain about it a lot, but he understands how to frame a shot in that iconic, I don't know, just like that Avengers spinny round shot that we all know that has been burned into our brains is like the modern version of, like, I don't know. I just don't think the Russo brothers are capable of anything on that level.
I was thinking, the thing that popped in my head is like, who directed Deadpool and Wolverine? Because I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was a little bit bozo-ish, but this guy's name is Sean Levy. You're familiar with him?
Oh, yeah. That was Sean Levy? Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
You know what else he directed that we talked about on this podcast?
I know him as Free Guy.
Yeah,
right?
Free Guy. Right, the movie that we both hated tremendously because we were too inside.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think I probably hated that. The reason I know Sean Levy is because he directed Real Steel, which I really loved, and I think I've talked about it on the podcast how that movie is a fucking banger. It is actually funny to me now that I'm looking at it and I guess he did The Night of the Museums, which I also really enjoy. Oh, and wow, he also made some He was a producer on Stranger Things, which I did not know.
He made a movie called The Adam Project with, I recognize Ryan Reynolds, but I do not remember. Oh, it's a Netflix movie. Is it good?
I'm going to guess fucking no. It's just funny to me that Deadpool and Wolverine, that he did Ryan Reynolds with Free Guy and Hugh Jackman with Real Steel. I also didn't know, I guess he did Cheaper by the Dozen. Who knew?
Yeah, it got mixed reviews, I guess is what the Adam Project got. But I feel like there are some hidden gems on Netflix that just kind of like go by the wayside because they get lost in the slop, essentially, which is a shame.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. Who just went? I just went.
No, I just went. I did Doomsday.
No, you. Oh, you did Doomsday.
You just talked about it a lot.
So now I gotta go. I just talked about it a lot. Thank you. Okay, you teed me up for it. What's another movie that's coming out? There's a good one. Talking about Disney, talking about monoculture. Okay, we have the big return of Star Wars to the silver screen with The Mandalorian and Grogu, which got a trailer. Did you watch it?
No. Mostly because I still have not seen season 2 of Mando. So.
Frankly, I also have not seen season 3 of Mandalorian. And spoiler alert, the end of season 2, the two of them are separated. So I guess that plot hook got fucking resolved.
Yeah, I got this spoiled for me because I saw it in passing. It's like apparently Grogu stayed with Luke for like years or something, right? Like it's like 3 years, or it's supposed to be the time jump there or something like that. So yeah.
I sort of hate this. I am dooming on The Mandalorian and Grogu, but it's going to be interesting. So Kathleen, just updates on Star Wars world. Okay, Kathleen Kennedy is gone. Some would say rightly so. Some would say unfairly so. Right? She became a truly insane lightning rod that I am unfamiliar with happening kind of anywhere else.
I'm going to disagree with that in the sense that I think this is the job of someone who is the head of the like they're the person the buck stops with, right? Like this,
I guess that's fair.
But go on. Sorry.
Nobody gets mad. The comparison I'm making is again, Zack Snyder. Okay. Nobody gets mad at producers on projects. They get mad at directors typically. Right. And I think people were obviously mad about Rian Johnson and stuff like that. And even maybe J.J. Abrams. I don't know. I don't really know how like any of that kind of stuff falls down, but there's this thing of like, there's like a decision-making layer. Like, do you remember who is the producer of Justice League, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, like the 2017 Justice League in the Zack Snyder DCEU? No, nobody remembers that guy's name. You remember Zack Snyder, right? You remember the director on the project, or you remember James Wan did Aquaman, Patty Jenkins did Wonder Woman, right? You know what I mean? Maybe Kevin Feige is the only other one.
Yeah, I would say like there are people that stand on top of like large properties that I think can like George Lucas didn't direct all of the Star Wars movies, but he's still like the lightning rod for the original Star Wars.
I guess that's fair. I mean, he directed all of the prequels, but he didn't direct either Empire or ROTJ. Anyway, so I thought it was pretty unique that people fixated so hard on Kathleen Kennedy when I never felt like people fixated even on other, like, who is the producer in the Dark Universe? I don't know, right? Like, who is the producer for
ground, right? Like,
yeah, sure, but still, I just think that like all of these are related. Even something like the Fast and Furious movies, right? Like, most other franchises, Diesel
the producer.
I don't know.
Like the people, everybody thinks of.
I do think he produces it.
Well, everybody thinks of the Fast and the Furious as Vin Diesel series, even though I assume he didn't direct all of them, right? Like he's they're. I think it attaches to people in different ways, and like I think Fast and Furious is clearly Vin Diesel's baby, and for whatever reason, as head of Star Wars, right? Like I'm thinking about this mostly because like Phil Spencer has just left Xbox, and there's
also true.
There's this woman who is like from an AI division that is taking over, and obviously she is not responsible for the new version of Halo or like Gears of War E-Day, but all of like the criticism of an Xbox are going to fall on her shoulders, like they fell on Phil Spencer's shoulders. I think there's something similar there. I just think it's a matter of the way the properties tend to be structured. But I'll take your point as it is, and obviously this is falling on Kathleen Kennedy's shoulders for better or for worse.
Yeah, I actually probably think that I probably end up somewhere in the haters. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Kathleen Kennedy. She was the producing partner for like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg for a bazillion years and has insane credits to her name. But if you just look at that Star Wars run, It's pretty bad, I think, is what you could say, right? You have, I would say, probably two bright spots, right? You have
Rogue One,
The Last Jedi, and Rogue One. Yeah, exactly.
And you are also like the only person that thinks you are the Last Jedi is at least divisive, right? Like we can at least agree on that.
That's true. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's also, I think most people, if you were to ask most people that question, they would either count, not Rise of Skywalker. What was the first one? The Force Awakens. Because like what I tend to think is my heterodox thing is that I love Last Jedi, but I hate the Force Awakens. Most people who love The Last Jedi tend to love The Force Awakens, and I think they're morons, obviously. I also think there's quite a lot of Rogue One hate, which I have weirdly seen, but I'm weirdly vindicated for because frankly, because Andor came out and sort of retroactively made Rogue One much better. Anyway, but then past that, I mean, what do you have? You have fucking Solo, right? You have a bunch of these shows that people don't like, that turned the rest of us off. I just don't think Kathleen Kennedy has like a very great, like you just can't. That's not a good batting average. Basically, is what I would sort of be pointing to. That said, the part of Star Wars that I think turned me off the most was kind of like the first season of The Mandalorian was okay. It's worse in hindsight when I went back and rewatched it. The second season was bad, and I don't have high hopes that it's going to get better. And it's just like, I don't think that The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to do much of anything at all. Really, the one that I'm probably interested in is Starfighter, the Ryan Gosling one, which, funnily enough, Sean Levy is directing because I just Googled his name and I didn't realize he was directing that as well because, like I said, I think of him as a real SEAL guy. But my hope is that Starfighter will be something cool at least. And then there's also, I actually think this might have gotten canceled. Isn't there a Rogue Squadron movie? Rogue Squadron movie. Oh, shit. Rogue Squadron movie canceled. Fuck. It was supposed to be directed by Patty Jenkins. Ooh. Oh, no. Okay.
What happened to Patty Jenkins?
She made the second Wonder Woman movie, which was really bad, and everybody hated it.
Is that it? Just like this Wonder Woman 1984 killed her career?
Seems like it. Well, actually, maybe. So, 2022, the film was taken off the release schedule. It's still, actually, in 2024, she says she's still around. So, I don't know. Maybe it's still a thing. I guess there's a couple of these different films. There's a James Mangold film. Dave Filoni, Taika Waititi have movies. I don't know. I'm whatever. I think it's going to be, it's funny because I love Andor. I think Andor is really good, but Andor is, I want to find like an idiom for a diamond in the rough is it's the opposite of that. It's everything is pointing to bad. And it just so happens, it's kind of like a stopped clock. Is right twice a day. That's sort of what I think Andor was. Andor just happened to be amazing and everything else has sucked, and we should look at everything else sucking, not Andor being amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Why does Diamond in the Rough not work for this?
I don't know. Diamond in the Rough is for like a thing that nobody realizes is good. What I'm trying to describe is like, don't let one thing being good change the way that everything else being bad is like makes you feel. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you hyped for Mandalorian and Grogu?
No.
Are we going to catch up? I guess we can catch up on Mandalorian and Grogu if you want.
Yeah. When does it come out?
It's got to be like May or something, right?
May 22nd. So, I guess maybe I could watch some of that.
Yeah, it's Jon Favreau, I guess. Also, I don't know. Part of it, I also think, is Pedro Pascal. I think that the reason this movie got greenlit is because he became like a giga movie star. Kind of out of the last couple of years.
Yeah. No. The what's it called? on a random podcast I heard, it's like a variety of talking about it. It's like the thing that happened to the Mandalorian is that, the core premise was, big mercenary man has a baby, and can the mercenary man learn how to be a dad enough to protect the baby that can't take care of itself? And now the baby can like throw things around, and the dad doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And so the core premise is falling away. And also on top of this, you have things like, and Pedro Pascal is constantly inventing reasons to take off his helmet that don't break the lore, because he needs his face to be shown on the television, because one, he wants that, and two, all the Pedro Pascal fanboys want that. So
I also heard somebody say something like, it sounds like Pedro Pascal's on ketamine, which I also think is very true. Just like a tremendously subdued performance is what he constantly gives, and whether or not that will be enough to carry is kind of an open question. You know what? Here's an interesting thing. Do we have music? Who's the music by? Okay, the music is by Ludwig Göransson, who is extremely talented, and I love deeply. So that's a good sign. That's maybe it. That's maybe the only good thing I can point to. I basically don't care about the rest of this.
Apparently, there's a Clayface film coming out.
Oh yeah, I know about Clayface. Isn't that the one that's in the Batman universe? An upcoming body horror film directed by James Watkins. Wow, yeah, October 23rd. I'm kind of into that.
Tom Rees-Harris does not look like what I imagine Clayface to look like. I just Googled him. All right, so I asked my friend ChatGPT to tell me about the big nerd releases coming out, and the ones he gave me for movies are the Super Mario Galaxy movie, Mando and Grogu, Toy Story 5, Supergirl, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Clayface, and Avengers Doomsday.
Oh, God. Giga kill me. Fucking Christ. Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out this year. Actually, I should say, I really hated Spider-Man. Oh, God. What was the last one called? No Way Home.
Yeah,
right?
No Way Home, yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home. Boy, did I hate that movie. Boy, did I really hate that movie. But I really loved Spider-Man Far From Home. And at least No Way Home ended Spider-Man in this place of Peter Parker is down on his luck in a shitty apartment. Nobody knows who he is. Like, maybe finally I can get a movie I really fucking love out of the MCU. I basically hate the MCU take on Spider-Man. I think it's kind of the opposite of just good. So,
yeah. Apparently, Michael Mando is playing Scorpion in Brand New Day, which,
I love Michael Mando. Oh my God. That's actually kind of hype, to be honest. We'll see.
Yeah.
I guess there's J. Jonah Jameson stuff, if that's true. Well, I don't know. They probably won't go with that Scorpion lore. Technically, Scorpion was hired with Black Bunny by J. Jonah Jameson to hunt Spider-Man for... It's funny that like stuff like this, as I describe it, is like the height of journalistic malpractice, but like it was just a comic book plot in the 1970s. Anyway, what else was on that list? Toy Story could give so few fucks about. Yeah, I don't think I've cared about anything less.
I saw a trailer on Twitter, and the plot is there is a like definitely not an iPad that is taking all of the attention from the child, and toys need to be screen bad, toys good, which, maybe not necessarily the most opposed to that message, but also
write the screenplay, Jonathan Haidt.
Got
him. That's a joke just for us. Okay, nobody else will get this. Okay.
But of those movies, I think the one I might be most excited for
If you say Super Mario Galaxy, I'm gonna lose my mind. I fucking hate my life. Are you kidding? I think maybe. Oh, I really hated the first Mario Brothers movie, but hey, who knows? Maybe this one will be good. I don't know. I don't care. About
I don't have high like. This is one of those things where it's kind of like, it was dumb the first one, but I didn't particularly care. It is one of those like. I am not invested in like the Super Mario Brothers movie being a true representation of the Super Mario Brothers property, right? Like, it can kind of be whatever it wants to be, right? Like, I'm a fan of the old fucking movie, right? Like which is,
yeah, I guess I will say this for its favor, which is Spider-Man No Way Home, The Rise of Skywalker. Like, these are movies that offended me, right? Like, these are movies that I loathe and I hold deep contempt for. I didn't like the Super Mario Brothers movie. I thought it sucked, and I kind of wish I didn't spend my time and money on it. But I don't hold it in contempt or resentment. Do you know what I mean? Like, one of these is one that I'm mad about, right? The other one, I just wish I didn't. I regret it, but whatever. And that is a different feeling.
Yeah. The only movie I am sad that I missed over like the past year or two that we did the previous first. We didn't do Sonic 3. And that is like dumb and goofy enough that I enjoyed the first one a lot more than the second one, but like, I've seen clips from like the third one, and I would maybe go back and watch that just because,
I think we absolutely should go watch Sonic 3. I agree with you. That's fair. I was also thinking about there's another movie I was thinking about. And I think it was in the list Supergirl. Supergirl is one that I am excited for. Not in like a hardcore way. Everybody's making jokes about the fact that it looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. I think without realizing that James Gunn did not direct this. But it frankly just looks cool. It just looks cool and great. It has Jason Momoa as Lobo, which I sort of hate because I think it's so fucking obvious that it's kind of lame. But hey, it's a movie that has a real sort of style and personality to it, which is not something that I can say about, frankly, like it's funny because I guess I watched the trailers for that and Mandalorian because they both came out in the Super Bowl maybe or something like that. Like I just watched them next to each other, but they're both kind of doing this space opera thing, and Supergirl is doing it better, which is wild for me to say that. Like Supergirl is doing this like space opera, adventure through the dark underbelly of galactic crime better than the Star Wars movie that is about like fighting the Hutts, I guess. And it's just like, I don't know. But Jon Favreau, I think, has sucked it for a long time too. So, maybe it's just like a level of director.
You know what I want? I want a new original fucking sci-fi epic property, right? Like the best thing we've gotten has been Dune, and Dune's great, but it's not original, right? Like,
That's true. It's funny. I watched a YouTube video about Galaxy Quest. You remember Galaxy Quest?
Of course I remember Galaxy Quest. Love Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, Red Letter Media did a review of Galaxy Quest, maybe years ago, 2 years ago or something.
It was relatively recent.
Yeah. It was with Jack Quaid, who, frankly, I think did a bad job reviewing the property, but I guess he's famous, so he gets to get on there and say whatever he wants.
I like Jack Quaid as a guest just because he's fun, right? Like, he's
he kind of has like golden retriever energy. He's sort of like down for everything. He's got a big smile, but he doesn't really have two brain cells to rub together, which is like kind of fair enough. But they were talking about Galaxy Quest, and one of the things they were talking about was, why do they do prestige television shows for, like Boba Fett when they should do prestige television shows for Galaxy Quest? And they were just kind of like pitching basically like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, and then you'd see, like the Shakespearean play that Alan Rickman's character was in or whatever. It's just like, I actually think that would be great. I would love a prestige television show about fucking Galaxy Quest. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Like, I don't know. I also agree with you. I want new franchises too, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Sinners was great. That was the only original movie I could think of in like the last year I've watched.
Monsters was or Weapons, not Monsters.
Weapons, yeah.
Weapons was good. I am not a big horror guy, right? And like it seems like that's where like the innovation is for whatever reason is in the horror space. I don't need to watch another dramatic movie about, I don't know, something happening in like the 50s.
You know what they really should do? They should give they just need to, here's the ticket to success, okay? And you need like a studio with a ton of cash in order to do this, right? Like Netflix, instead of buying Warner Brothers to get all that IP, just like go find filmmakers who have vision, and then you look at classic movies, like the movies that everybody loves and everybody agrees these things are amazing. Films by people like Krzysztof Kieslowski, right? Or Akira Kurosawa, right? And you just remake movies like that, but you don't remake them. You just kind of do your own spin on them. I think if they found a director like Zack Snyder, maybe, and you gave him a property like Seven Samurai, maybe, and you set that in space, you're going to get a pretty good movie out of it.
You know what I will say? I will say that Rebel Moon is better than Battle Among the Stars. I don't know. I watched this fucking movie when we did the Magnificent Seven remake.
Oh yeah.
I went and watched like
honestly, Rebel Moon is probably better than like Rise of Skywalker and Solo. Maybe it's about the same as Solo. Rebel Moon and Solo kind of remind me of each other in a way. Not that they have different sort of problems.
Yeah, I was to say, right? Like how do I value?
But like they are kind of at the same tier. I would almost say that they're like, if something like Rise of Skywalker is like F tier, Rebel Moon and Solo, these are like D tier or like C tier, maybe. I don't know, kind of movies that are bad but not offensive.
If you went to me and you said, you have one movie and you can either give it to Zack Snyder to make another Rebel Moon movie and try and make it good, or give it to like, J.J. Abrams or in my case, Rian Johnson to try and make Star Wars good again, I would give it to Zack Schneider in a heartbeat. So, there's that.
Really? I would give another movie to Rian Johnson.
Well, we disagree on The Last Jedi, right? Like that's the difference here, right? Like,
I feel like you soured on The Last Jedi pretty hard. I feel like when we first saw it, you were sympathetic to kind of both sides, but now I feel like you represent the sort of anti-case.
I mean, on this podcast, I kind of like, I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but I do think its fundamental flaw is that it's like just like not very Star Warsy, right? In a mainline Star Wars movie. I think that's pretty much its biggest sin, right? Like, we don't need to do a third fucking episode on The Last Jedi. So,
yeah, that's fair. It's funny. There's this thing that I think has also happened, which is that like filmmakers learn the wrong lessons from movies. I was actually thinking about this in my speech about the Russo brothers. One of the things that I think has made the Russo brothers suck in hindsight, and also like just in general, is the way that Man of Steel affected how superhero movies got made, right? Because in 2012, you have Avengers, where there's the Battle of New York, civilians are blowing up all over the place, all this other sort of stuff. In 2013, you get Man of Steel, which is, it has all of the destruction that's happening in the city, and then the kind of narrative that comes out of that around how, Superman doesn't care about like civilian casualties or whatever, gets incorporated into Avengers Age of Ultron, which sort of insists that superheroes can have these superhero fights with sort of no casualties. And I think all of this is sort of this cascade of kind of bad faith interpretations of one another. And this is how you get to the Russos, who set all of their big set piece battles in wide open fields, like the most boring motherfuckers on the planet, right? Where you can't get just nothing is impeding these fights or getting or like interesting. There's no, it's like the D&D thing that we talk about, right? That like you need to set your D&D fight in an environment that has stuff that you can do, shelves that you can knock over onto a bad guy, a big pit that you can trip someone into, like this kind of stuff. This is sort of the thing. They said, oh well, I guess we can't have fights in cities with civilians around anymore, so we're just gonna go take all of these fights out into the fucking like DBZ Badlands and assume that that's going to be good and cool, and it's fucking not. And I think a similar thing actually sort of happened in sci-fi in a way, where Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi were doing a thing with the Star Wars mythos. Like, whether or not you agree it was like good or cool, right? He was trying to build upon the Star Wars mythos with, the Yoda burning down the tree, giving the books to Rey, Luke doing the Force Ghost across the universe, like all of this other sort of stuff. It's about sort of, the idea that this little kid with the broom, but he lightsaber, like whatever, all of that kind of stuff. He's trying to build on kind of the mythos. And there was this huge rejection of that building, right? And it was kind of an implication that like, this is not really sort of Star Wars. And then I think the bad faith thing that cascaded from there is, oh, well, actually people just want to see the same stuff over and over again, right? And that's how you get Solo. That's how you get Rise of Skywalker. Right. I don't know. I think that's a thing. I think that's a thing that sort of happens sometimes when you have these, especially in these divisive movies like Man of Steel and The Last Jedi, where, if the lesson for Solo or the lesson for The Last Jedi that goes into Solo is you're not allowed to take risks. You're not allowed to try and expand the universe. That's how you get just, and this is how he got his name, and this is how he got his jacket, and this is how he got his whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like all of that kind of bullshit.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that like, the things that you just pointed to about The Last Jedi were not the things that I disliked the most about it. And I also think that like, I think that also The Rise of Skywalker retroactively made The Last Jedi worse by trying to like fix it in ways, right? Like,
yes, yeah, I agree with that for sure.
I think the other part of my souring on The Last Jedi is really like I did not like what's it called, the I didn't watch them all the way through, but I didn't like the Daniel Craig investigator movies.
Oh, Knives Out.
Yeah, Knives Out. I did not like the Knives Out.
You don't like Knives Out?
I didn't like the sequels. And so I think it just kind of soured on him, and so maybe that's partly reverse coloring my my feelings on it. But
I liked the second one. I haven't watched the third one.
Yeah, I have not watched either of them all the way through, so maybe I should. But like the vibes I got off of them are just like the kind of like premises, which are all kind of like rich tech bro bad type stuff, is just kind of like I do not care enough about this to kind of like deal with this, and I have not heard good things about them.
Oh, I totally get that. The second one, you probably should finish the second one. Because the second one is kind of like political in that way. I would hazard so far to call it like maybe annoyingly political, in sort of the way that maybe like, I don't know. I don't want to get into politics, obviously, but like the worst parts about political discourse on like fucking Twitter or whatever get like represented in that movie. That makes me just go, ugh. Like I just don't want that in my filmmaking. But it was otherwise, I don't know. There's the thing about just like people doing weird stuff, like actors who are big and hammy, that I'm always gonna be on board for that kind of show.
Well, talk about a weird political movie. Have you seen Eddington? You should watch Eddington.
Eddington. I have not seen Eddington.
It is a movie that like, I don't know if we could even talk about it on this, because like it is so wrapped up in like weird politics, and it's not very clear about what it is, like how it feels about anything. It is just like, it is a fascinating movie.
Okay. I mean, I know Ari Aster. Ari Aster is a fucking moron, but I loved... And Ari Aster is the guy who did Midsummer, and I loved Midsummer, and I was like, oh, this movie's so good, it's so smart, or whatever. And then I watched interviews with the director, and I was just like, this guy is a fucking doofus. He's a moron. Like, I don't know, man. It's funny because I don't like watching a lot of that supplemental content. You know, I know it's out there, but it just takes a lot of time. And I most of the time just want the thing to sort of speak for itself. But like when you watch Ryan Coogler talk about Sinners, which I did after I watched Sinners, I was like, oh man, this guy's smart. This is so smart. It's so cool. He's such a smart filmmaker. Even somebody who I don't, frankly, I obviously like Zack Snyder a lot. Okay. But when he talks about movies, he kind of talks about them sort of like an idiot. But like it's weirdly endearing in a way because he talks about like his influences and the things mostly he's talking about the images that he's like trying to capture and how he wants to frame sort of like a certain thing or what he believes about myth and storytelling and all these other kinds of things. And it's hard to keep track of because he's not a great communicator in that way, but you can at least kind of get on board for his energy. Michael Bay is actually quite a lot like this, to be honest. Michael Bay likes to talk in those sorts of terms too. Ari Aster he just seems like a fucking idiot when you watch his interviews. So I am not surprised that this movie is wild.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's about the pandemic?
Yes, it is. It is a weird movie. It's funny. So I watched it maybe, I think in like late June, early July. Basically, so I went to my brother's bachelor party and they're a bunch of film people, right? And so, like, I mentioned Eddington, and I was talking to this one guy about it, and I was like, you know, it's interesting, and he's like, let me guess, it's like interesting, and then it goes totally off the rails in the third act. I'm like, yeah. He's like, did you see it? He's like, no, I just know how every single one of his movies goes, right? So, but you know, I've never seen Midsummer, so I don't have that as a reference point. But I watched it as kind of like a, you know, this is weird, and you know, basically, in terms of like being annoyingly political, you think it's going in like one of like a couple different directions, and it just keeps swerving and like denying any sort of like, you know, like real analysis. And so, you know, it's
like you wanna categorize it, but it doesn't like get categorized very well.
That, but like I think it's semi-intentional, right? Like you can see it like driving towards like a point. Right, like a point that aligns with a conventional piece of political thinking, right? And then it will just like swerve and do something else entirely, and you'll see it driving towards another one, and then there's a swerve again, and then like, you know, there's a moment in the third act. There's a moment on a plane. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. There's like a plane thing happens. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? And you know, and then the ending is spectacularly weird. But you know. It is a unique. This is one of those things where, like, I remember. God, when did The Lighthouse come out? 2019. That was like, I went and saw The Lighthouse in a theater with my brother in New York, and you know, Greg's a big film guy. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. I remember walking out of that theater and we looked at each other like. It seems like it was a little too full of itself, right? And I agree with that. It has stuck with me more than many, many, many other movies that I have seen over the intervening 6 years. And there's some value to that, in my opinion, right? Like, you know, even if it's not the best, this is maybe where I get to like start to side up to your view of like, you know, I value shooting for the moon and missing more than kind of like a solid 8 or whatever, right? Like, that's the way I kind of feel about Eddington. And like, I feel like that movie is going to stick with me forever in the same way that The Lighthouse has, even though it's not like a, you know, I don't know. I think it's a little, I think it insists upon itself a little too much, maybe is the way to put it.
Yeah, to quote fucking Family Guy. I know where that shit comes from. Like,
yeah.
It insists upon itself. Come on. Yeah, I do totally get that. It's funny. I've been thinking in the background about your thing about, you know, we need new franchises. And I have a terrible answer for you, but I know exactly what answer it is. It's Avatar. Avatar is maybe the only one I can think of that was like a huge, like a huge new franchise. Like, and it became the biggest movie in the fucking world, right? But it's maybe the only one I can think of that is just kind of like based on nothing. And I didn't even see the third movie. And I loved the second movie so much. One of the things I'm really grateful of, catching up on Patrick H. Willems, I was telling this to
buddy, can you call a 16-year-old franchise new?
You maybe got me there. Okay. If you think about it, man, holy fuck. Okay. I'm so sorry to do this to you. What's episode 1? The Phantom Menace came out. That was 17 or 18 years after Return of the Jedi. It's the same distance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're further away from the Phantom Menace than the Phantom Menace is from the pyramids, actually.
That's actually really funny. Yeah, Avatar might be the only one I can think of that is like completely sort of like brand new.
Maybe you should go watch this Adam Project movie, right? It seems like that's what it's supposed to be, right? Like this movie.
Maybe. Fuck, who knows?
I don't.
It's funny. I was because I was watching these Patrick H. Willems movies or videos from 2022. I feel like I'm in a time machine because one of the things he did an award show that I frankly think he sort of copied from us, but obviously he didn't because he doesn't know who we are. But he did this award show called the Vitos, where he got a bunch of Funko Pops of Vito Corleone and spray painted them gold. And just started handing the Funko Pops for like invented movie categories. And one of the movie categories was best whale that cut a guy's arm off, which is something that happened in Avatar: Way of the Water. And so it was like, it's just like a bunch of stuff that was unrelated even to whales. It was like, oh, Kate Blanchett in Tar. I guess Brendan Fraser in The Whale was nominated. But then it was like, and then Payakan from Avatar: Way of the Water. And the winner is Payakan, right? But he talked about Top Gun Maverick as a super awesome movie, which I deeply believe it is. I love that movie. I've watched that movie 100,000 times. And he talked about Avatar: The Way of the Water. And I was just like, man, I kind of think those are some of the like best movies that I can think of in recent memory. And even those are these like legacy sequels. You know what I mean? Like Top Gun. I mean, coming off of the original Top Gun, obviously Top Gun Maverick is an amazing movie, but it's not new IP. Same thing for even other stuff like Blade Runner 2049. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yep.
I tend to not like the IP argument all that much because I think even in like the golden age of Hollywood, things were essentially like even Indiana Jones is essentially based off of an IP in the sense of it's sort of like a riff on a thing. But you can't even get that stuff made anymore, right? Rebel Moon is a riff on Star Wars and it's a huge flop. Right? You know, you just think about so many of these, I don't know, maybe just superstar talent is the other way you can do it. Like Ryan Coogler, Christopher Nolan, I guess. Tenet, right? Is kind of like,
yeah. And so something that ChatGPT missed is Project Hail Mary comes out, I think in like a couple weeks, which it is hard sci-fi. So it is not like a space opera or whatever, but I enjoyed The Martian.
This is just sunshine, right? Do we all agree on that? It's just fucking sunshine.
I don't know what that means.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I mean...
Sunshine is a movie by not Alex Garland. Fuck, who the fuck did Sunshine? But it's a movie about restarting the sun. Danny Boyle. It is actually Alex Garland. Alex Garland wrote the screenplay. But it's a movie about a group of astronauts who are flying to the sun to drop a nuclear payload to restart it because the sun is broken. Project Hail Mary just is sunshine, is what I feel like. Right?
I have no idea. I think I actually have the audiobook. I just never went and read it because like I said, I enjoyed The Martian. I went to get the Hail Mary book because I listened to an interview with Andy Weir at some point. And I will say that I am moderately hyped for Project Hail Mary. I like Ryan Gosling.
Phil Lord, Chris Miller, right?
Yeah.
Great. I actually also like Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling, weirdly, he is maybe since like, I don't know, man, Barbie. He's just really come up in the world and is a real true movie star.
Yeah.
That I deeply love. It's like him and Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, is the most underrated movie star in Hollywood. It's maybe the best movie star I can think of. In Hollywood. I just fucking love everything he's in, it feels like. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I should get into the Amazon Expanse series or something. Maybe that'll...
Oh, I watched the first... God, what happened to The Expanse? I watched like the first 2 or 3 seasons of that. That show was awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, is there anything else that you want to that you're hyped for? I feel like we covered everything.
We covered everything that I am aware of, I guess, right? Like, new Pathfinder class is coming out. Daredevil and Slayer.
Cool.
Yeah. I haven't looked at the playtests. I don't care enough.
Yeah, did you look at the playtest for what was it? Commander and Guardian were the last two?
I mean, I think those might be out. Like, no, those are out.
Right. But like when they came out in playtest, did you look at them? My gut is no. Right?
No,
probably no.
Occasionally I know that you aren't on the Facebook Messenger as much anymore, but friend of the cast, Mark, reads them pretty much, and he spits out thoughts, and so sometimes I digest those, but I have not been.
Okay, yeah, like he takes some, whatever. He gives the take, and we all move on.
Yeah. you know what? Yeah. You know what? I might actually be excited for in the tabletop space is if the Angry GM can finally get his life together and release a playable version of Slapdash, which is his system, I would be interested in trying it. Just because, famously, we use the tension pool and we enjoy the tension pool. He's apparently updating the tension pool rules at some point this year too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Is interesting just kind of listening to him talk about some of that stuff again, because I think he would disagree with your use of the D4 plus the D8 for the table response, because I think in his mind the right way to use the tension pool is you as a GM on the fly kind of know contextually what the complications are supposed to be and come up with them, right? Like not necessarily like you have in your head a set of things that could happen, right? If you roll a 1 when you're picking a lock, right? On the tension pool, then somebody shows up to check on the door, right? That's the kind of archetypical thing.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm running it raw. I'm running it his raw, but it's his raw from 6 or 7 years ago at this point. So, and I actually do think my problem with the improv version of it, well, I don't know. I don't know. The thing I will say, I did something different this time when I wrote the complications, which is they are much more generalized, right? I had a couple of them in Heretic Heroes, but obviously the Soulstorm, that was a thing that was in the tension pool that was a very specific kind of trigger. The tension pool could just make this crazy story moment happen. There's really nothing like that in Rats in the Walls. In Rats in the Walls, there's a couple that you've already seen, right? An unlikely ally appears probably. Did we roll that one? That's the most likely one.
I don't know if we've rolled a couple of general ones that you've adapted to the situation.
Okay, yeah. There's also there's some stuff that I track in the background. We never did a Heretic Heroes sort of one where I explained how that tension pool works, which maybe I ought to. But there's some stuff that it tracks in the background. Oh, you know what? Well, I can't explain. You're in the middle of the campaign. But when Rest of the Walls ends, maybe I could revisit this. I do actually think I agree with you that the tension pool ought to be used improvisationally, with some, I don't know, light sort of guidelines on. I don't know how I would represent this. Basically, you want the stuff happening on one end or the other end of the table. I like that interaction quite a lot. And I wouldn't want to get rid of it, but maybe there's just no clean way to keep it without.
I think what I would,
I don't know.
If what I would do is I would have if I were writing the system, I would say that the GM rolls the table, right? And if there's a result that you think fits better than the dice, then you just ignore the dice, right? Like, but if you don't have a good idea, you just kind of like go with what the D, the D8 D12 gives you or whatever it is.
I have used the tension pool in a bunch of different places, and I think I kind of like it as a modular system that reacts to the context of the adventure that you're running. So, for instance, when I run the tension pool, so Rachel just said, would he disagree with my use of the grind maze? It's because Rachel used the tension pool to govern random encounters in the grind maze, right? So the grind maze was a section of city that she had made a big map for, and we were moving around kind of blindly, and it was... every 15 steps on the grind maze was one die into the tension pool. And then you rolled the tension pool. If you hit a 1, you got a random encounter. And if you hit multiple ones, you would stack random encounters together, which is actually quite deadly. And we did do that once. That's a lot of how the tension pool works in 7th Expedition, which it also governs the random encounters, right? You get the tension pool rises on certain sort of actions. It is a huge tension about obviously but it is the counterweight to actions that people are doing in camp. So for instance, if you're in camp doing research, that doesn't increase the tension pool, but if you're in camp and you go foraging for food, that does. And that was like a pretty important gameplay lever for me to kind of like pull in order to go, okay, if you want to scout the surrounding area to try and look at what other hexes are at, you are adding to the tension pool. If you are foraging, you're adding to the tension pool. Otherwise, it's kind of always correct to do those actions compared to sort of the other ones.
Yeah.
And I think of those as very like different uses of the tension pool. So I would probably agree that like it is a cool modular system that ought to morph to kind of the contours and context of your campaign.
Yeah. And just to kind of answer the question directly, I obviously did not experience the grind maze, but I think like I feel like he or that the Angry GM would not see it as like the I think the way he described doing like the random encounters is like random encounters should definitely be the thing for that kind of mode of play, but like I think he doesn't stack results, right? Like you one versus multiple ones is, and he also I don't think would just do all random encounters, but it's also kind of like it feels like it was built to like generate random encounters specifically, and I think at that point it's fine, right? Like if if that's the expectation, and like you guys were like farming the grind maze because you wanted to, right? Like
that was the emergent piece of the grind maze, right? Once we realized that at the end of an encounter, we could then roll to steal power crystals to power up our artifacts, essentially. That was when the grind maze went from like, oh, we need to get through this thing to, oh my God, this is so much fun. Because it kind of turned the game into a kind of a roguelike in a way, of, just progressing until you get the next upgrade, right?
Yeah, so fair enough. Yeah. And hey, if you're having fun, you're doing something right.
You know what I will say? I'm hyped for one more thing, which is whatever the next campaign is that you guys choose in a couple of months, weeks. I don't know. I don't really know when Rats in the Walls has to end because Low Kicks goes back to work. I'm spooked because we're probably going to lose tomorrow because of this big snowstorm, right?
It might also snow next Monday. So,
Oh, fuck my life. Kidding me? Yeah, well.
Yeah. Is Rats in the Walls like directly related to the H.P. Lovecraft Rats in the Walls story?
No, I've never even heard of. I mean, there is Lovecraft's. Well, I shouldn't say that, but there is inspiration that's happening with Lovecraft stuff with Rats in the Walls. But I did not know there was an H.P. Lovecraft story called Rats in the Walls.
Yeah. So if I go and read it, it's not going to give me spoilers for the.
It is. It is absolutely not going to give you spoilers. But there's definitely. I don't know. I guess I won't say anything more than that.
Did you end up watching the JoJo episode I told you to watch? You don't have to.
Oh, I watched the clip that you showed me with the sniper. I don't understand anything about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, so I was just like, "What the fuck am I watching?" That gets the dart in his arm and he goes, like.
Do you know?
But that was a lot.
Do you know what a stand is?
Go for it. No.
Okay, so we've been watching JoJo. So just to kind of lay it out. Starting with arc 3 of JoJo, the powers are these things called stands. People, for various different reasons, can kind of like manifest versions of their will. They're like people that like pop, like they're like magic essentially. They're like, you know, like a this person pops out of you. They all have different powers. In the third arc, they're all kind of very stereotypical. Like Star Platinum punches real fast. The French guy has one with a rapier, and you know, like the Indian guy has one that can breathe fire, and you know, Joseph, the returning character from the previous season, has one that can like make cameras take pictures of people's souls or something like that. They basically kind of do whatever you want them to, but this fourth arc has gone really off the walls. I don't know. Everybody loves JoJo. My hot take is that this fourth arc, which is Diamond is Unbreakable, I think, is just it is too slow, right? It's this classic kind of like parts. Season 1 was parts 1 and 2. Season 2 was part 3, which is like 24-ish episodes long, I think. Season 4 or 3 is part 4, and it's like 60-something fucking episodes long. And it's just so much like filler that's clearly like, you know, chapters in the manga or whatever. But part of the thing here is that stands were kind of like mysterious as to where they were coming from. But they introduced this mechanic where like there's this bow and arrow where if you shoot someone with it, they get a stand power. And so like the story here is someone shot a fucking rat with the bow and arrow, and its stand is it like shoots people with like this like artillery cannon. It's fucking, but it's like it feels to me. It felt very Skaven. It felt very Skaven to me, which is why I posted it in the channel.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I definitely get that. I definitely get that part for sure.
Gosh, but yeah, rats in the walls. It's a rat man.
It's a rat man. I don't think any of us are going to be able to do that voice as well as Rachel.
But yeah. Anything else from your week you want to talk about?
I have been working on the Platinum Achievement in WoW. It is going to take me into midnight. I can't
really
escape it. Yeah, there's a bunch of weekly stuff. Like I never finished the Siren Isle. I'm going to have to go back and do those weeklies, and I don't know if the next week is going to roll them. And there's also like 10 chests or something I need to farm, which is like, that sounds brutal based on how I understand the
Siren Isles.
I've gotten one fragment of a key from one of a couple of rares that
you don't need that for the Platinum Achievement.
Oh, what do I need?
I don't remember.
It's like 10 treasures or something.
I think you can just like run around them. I think those are just like the set ones that you can like look up the achievement, because all the treasure ones are like, you know, I went to Wowhead and like copy pasted locations and just walked around to them. Because I know what you're talking about. I tried to do that grind for a little while and I got like one fragment. I'm like, I'm fucking done with this, right? So, you know, I did finish that. You don't have to finish that.
Okay. I do go a little bit to Wowhead to clear some stuff. So the other one that I have to do is I have to do a bunch of different weeklies that are in the Hallowfall. You got to do the different daily.
Oh yeah,
there are weeklies. You put the stuff in the torches.
Yeah.
Right, and I just have to wait week over week for the right ones to spawn for that. I have to do all of the kid things. That one's gonna be brutal. I've done 2 of like 8 or something, and so you know it's just gonna be every couple of days to see if the fucking kids show up.
So for the kids one, the hard mode one will instantly complete the world quest. So don't make the hard mode one your last one for maximum efficiency. You can do it in 2 rotations, I think, if you do it that way.
Okay.
Because
and then I also have some Koresh stuff that I need to finish out. You know what it is that I have to wait for the right. I have all of the rares in Koresh except for one, which is one of the ones you get from the warrants, which I just have been progressing, and I just need to finish that. You know, finish that grind.
I will say for the Hallowfall weeklies, it is like it's a cycle. It's not random. So like like there are like 3 or 4 of them that you have to like you put it into one brazier and a certain person, like you spawn a certain quest, and the next week you have to do it 3 weeks in a row because there's one that has 3 in them, and the others all have too. So, or the other ones that have multiple.
Yeah, I have a number of them completed. This is also like part of it is that I have some of them completed, but not all of them completed. So yeah. I finished my grind for the Dark Fuse coat, which was great. I loved that grind. I talked about that last week, I guess. I don't know what else. We played a little bit of Helldivers, which actually I had a great time with. I was talking about it with Josh today at D&D. He was like, I really want to play more Helldivers. I was like, yeah, me too, brother. Like,
I had less of a good time with it, but I was.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine, right? Like I just, I played for a little while. It was like, I don't know. I also fell off of it faster the first time than the rest of you did. So.
I also think that maybe if you had the breaching hammer, were you watching me play with the breaching hammer that first match? That was so fun. It was so stupid. That's like the kind of thing that I think is your kind of thing of like, I am going to make my weapon this one-hit melee weapon that I need to dive in against incredibly painful creatures. Like that's the kind of thing that would probably be, up your alley maybe.
And there's definitely an aspect of that, but I also just like, I felt myself getting frustrated by like, the laser rover like sweeping over my head and damaging, like the friendly, and like,
oh yeah,
there's a number of like the game is designed to be like mildly frustrating, right? Like that's part of its friction, and it just rubbed me the wrong way the whole time we played. So, just not
fair enough.
Not my favorite thing.
Yeah, we also have more stuff that's coming out. Like it's an easy thing to drop off the bottom.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you feel about playing Magic on Tabletop Simulator? This is something else Josh and I were talking about.
Sure. Like Tabletop Simulator would work. I would also play on like, Spell Table or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, the thing that we were talking about is there's apparently very powerful mods which I have found and downloaded because other people on another server that have been playing recently. And because I'm planning to like build out these decks, we were thinking about like what would it look like to playtest decks on Tabletop Simulator and then order them once we're like, oh, this is good. This is like the good build of the deck kind of thing. But also at the same time, like there's just kind of no version of things where I want to do that over. Like if we can get together, I want to get together.
Yeah, I was going to say like thinking about it, like half of the joy for me is a social aspect. If I'm going to be at my computer, I'd probably rather be playing a video game, honestly.
Yeah, if we're all going to be at our computer together, let's play whatever. Arc Raiders, Helldivers, Marathon, something, WoW, whatever.
Yeah.
I think I probably agree with that.
If the cost for ordering a deck was too much, I would like, if that ever got to the point where I didn't want to do that, I would like, print them out on a printer and do like, slide-in proxies or something like that. So I just don't think I want to put the time into, that into like, getting that all to work just to play it online rather than in person. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How's Neo? I guess this is the thing that you've been doing this week.
Honestly, I think it's a little too easy. Like it definitely has that like soul style combat, but maybe I've just out leveled I'm going through it in kind of like level progression order, but I'm out leveled the areas pretty significantly. And not that things are trivial, they're just like, they don't have that kind of like, oh, I might lose at any moment thing that Dark Souls does, right? Like, I feel pretty confident that anything besides a boss I can kill pretty effectively. I think there's some water finds and crack problems here too. Like, I have my head in in Neo, you can switch between Ninja and Samurai mode. In Ninja mode, I have a mask that has enemy sensor on it, and so like none of the kind of like classic Dark Souls, you walk out and the thing around the corner jumps on you. They don't work on me anymore because I know where everything. I see the little red dot on the map, and that makes it less frustrating. But it also kind of like takes away some of the danger aspect. Like I said, the only thing that gives me any challenges are the bosses, and half of them I'm one-shotting anyway. Like I said, I might have out-leveled the content, which is not a thing you can really do in Dark Souls as effectively. But it's still fun. It's build crafting. I like whacking things with my big hammer and my tonfas. It's just like it's nice, but it's very quickly getting into the kind of like collectathon mode where I'm clearing the map instead of like, enjoying the game. And so I will have no problem dropping it when something else I want to do comes along, I don't think.
Like Marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I guess like Midnight,
Marathon and Midnight, right? Like Server Slam to Midnight. Theoretically, I think I have early access to the Midnight release, right? Like it's like 3 days.
Yeah, I definitely have early access, and I am going to go hard for it. But also at the same time, I think we're gonna like get together and do stuff. I mean, you're gonna be away most of that weekend in the first place, right? So
yeah. Although I will be playing Marathon with X and Monik, hopefully, from New York.
Listen, live and in person.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I got to get my my Server Slam runner up to level 30 because that's how you get the maximum rewards in the full release. Which maybe I won't do that because it's most of it's consumables, none of it. Like just playing once, I think gets you the cosmetics, but but yeah,
cool.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Or should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it.
All right. If you'd like to email us about any of the stuff we talked about on this podcast, you can email us at dirtspillgames@gmail.com or podcast@dirtspillgames.com. You can watch us on twitch.tv/dirtspillgames, youtube.com/@dirtspillgames, where these go out live. Rate and review us wherever you find podcasts. All the links will be down in the description. Buddy, do you have anything you're looking to promote?
I have one thing I'm looking to promote, which is that tomorrow is the beginning of Steam Next Fest. Steam does this 3 times a year, big set of demos. We always release demos for our upcoming projects. This is a big one. The Steam Next Fest that starts tomorrow is Airframe Ultra's open beta. So if hover bikes and Akira slides and Mega City West, gigantic, Giga City, all this stuff is cool and fun, and I don't know, you want to get into any of that? Tomorrow, open beta. There's no forums, there's no any of that stuff. You just download the demo and it's the game. So yeah.
I played this last year before PAX, right? This is when we played. And it was a bunch of fun.
Yeah.
Took a little bit of getting used to the controls, but it was fun. So, I would give it a look-see, everyone out there. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to say until next time, dear listeners.
Until next time, loyal listeners.